to the Prophecy Club. Today we're going to be talking more about UFOs and specifically abductions and things like that. Jim Wilhelmsen, Bible prophecy student, is going to talk to us all from a prophecy standpoint. Some 20 years he's been researching UFOs and abductions. He has ministered to over 100 people that claim to have been abducted. And at this point, it's a little question he knows what he's talking about. Now, today, however, we're going to be talking about biblical time travel, a new meaning to the end times. So, Jim, welcome back to the Prophecy Club.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us about these parallel dimensions.
Well, before we can even address, the idea of time travel, we have to know where we are exactly in the whole cosmos sphere of things. It's pretty incredible when you take all the scriptures in reference to describing heaven in relationship to earth. You see certain scriptures where it says that earth is going to be destroyed, then another one that's everlasting earth. And we have to go back to the Garden of Eden to see exactly what that is. But literally, what the Bible is telling us that we are living in more of a matrix. And it actually is a parallel altered world, simultaneously existing with the realm we call heaven in eternity. Once we understand that, then we can go beyond to understand more. So that, in a sense, we know sin separates us from God. But there's a physical manifestation of that can be understood by physics, and that is the sense of time. We are stuck in a linear time. Heaven is outside of time. Therefore, whenever we see things in the heavenlies, we got to stop thinking linear. We got to think outside of that. And that's very hard for us to do, but it can be possible, and the scriptures can actually guide us into understanding, at least as best as we possibly can, what it's like to be in a fourth dimension. When Jesus said that he was the light of the world, it's actually one of the most profound statements, because what he's saying is that he actually controls it all by saying that. Because when you reduce the whole idea of what is linear time, time is light that creates movement. That movement is directed and guided by magnetism. You have like a three-step method, but ultimately the light is what creates it all. That's the beginning. That's the first part. We see that in one of the scriptures describing heaven, that the Lord is the high and lofty one. He is the one that is the corner or first established part of anything. He's also the one that is raised up in a sense of a resurrection and paid the levy for that ability. In the book of Daniel, it talks about time as being everlasting to everlasting. That is an idea, literally in the Hebrew, it's taking a circle, or taking a straight line and putting them together end to end to create a circle or an eternal state. And this is exactly what has happened in the situation of heaven. And what Satan is trying to do, when he said in the five I wills of Satan in Isaiah 14th chapter, I will ascend into heaven, he doesn't want God's heaven. He's trying to create from this thrown out parallel universe, he's trying to create his own eternal state here in this realm. He wants his own. When he stood there with the five I wills, he was basically breaking out into his own business. He's looking around going, this isn't any big deal. I can do this myself. And so that's why everything is going to be done in the same but opposite. God has got his plan and his way of doing everything, and Satan is not necessarily opposing it. He's coming right alongside, and he's going to imitate everything. So in his deluded insanity, he thinks he's going to stand at the white throne judgment and say, look, I'm entitled to everything that you have because I did everything exactly the same but opposite that you did.
So time travel is possible, we know, because the angels, the whole Bible is filled with future events. We know time travel is possible, but the question is, can man travel in time?
In our present form, no. In a technology that was specifically designed for us, yes. That's what the lawbreakers, the fallen angels, it's their job, it's what they do. Everything that God has set down, they have tried and made an attempt to break that law and do things their own way. And so, yes, the Bible is quite clear that not only is God in control, and we have all examples in the scriptures, but also we have a warning that time is going to be used as a weapon against us.
Have you ever heard of Andrew Basiago?
Yes, I have. Basiago even confessed to himself that they had a couple of things happen that makes him doubt whether he was really traveling time or whether this was more of an MK Ultra mind control situation. The situation that happened, it made him question it. He was told they were on the surface of Mars. They couldn't see in the dark, so they lit off a flare, and the flare hit something directly above and came bouncing back. So if that was Mars, it shouldn't have bounced back. It was almost like they were in a holodeck or something.
Yeah, well, okay, that's another discussion for another time. I'm talking about, I interviewed him. I never did play it on the radio. We were talking about possibly inviting him in to speak, and we decided not to. He got rather upset that we didn't invite him to come and speak. But anyway, the part of his story that I do believe, he said at the age of 9, he noticed that he could move pencils and paper clips and things like that, small objects, with his mind. And so his dad thought that this was something really special and called the government in. Well, they put him into a program with a bunch of other youngsters. Long story short, he got put into a time travel machine. And he said that he has gone through it like over 100 times. And he claims, anyway, that he has a picture of the Gettysburg Address, and you know that you can find on the internet. But he shows you in that picture where he is actually in the picture as a young 9-year-old youngster there. Of course, it's kind of blurred. You can't really tell it's him. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the point is, we know God can travel in time, but I suspect that the government really does have a time, how do I say, I guess a time machine where they can go past or forward. Reason is they seem to know things that are coming almost like they're listening to our program.
Well, actually, Stan, that is in my speech. I do have the U.S. gleaned knowledge as a Trojan horse. That is, I'm going to be talking about him and some other attempted programs that the United States has gleaned. Now, see, we didn't come up with this on our own. We gleaned it from Nazi technology. We took it from the Nazi scientists that we had captured and had them start working for us.
Well, say on. Tell us now.
All right. The beginning of all of the discovery of how man could even have an understanding or a hope to travel in time was through the Nazis. They believed that ancient knowledge could be obtained to reach this. They believed that the Tower of Babel, while there's a section in Genesis about the Tower of Babel, it says this they begin to do. Literally in the Hebrew, it means they're trying to pry open or open a hole into eternity, into heaven. God's dialogue, he says, now anything they imagine to do, they will be able to do. God's taken their attempt seriously. The Tower of Babel was not a climbing program. If you look in your King James Version, you'll see that the word reached unto is italicized. That's because there's no Hebrew word for there. It's that the people that translated at the time did the best they could with what they had. The tower was there. It was for climbing. No, why was the tower built in a valley instead of the highest mountain in the area? Because it was built in a valley. Because if you look at the words before and after the context there, it's actually telling you that they were likening unto the things of heaven. What does the Levitical law say? Do not liken unto the things in heaven, in the earth, and under the water, under the earth. We'll get that one in the last thing. So there's a whole lot more going on with that. Now,
Wait. Let's don't get off that. I want to talk about that. I understand that the Tower of Babel, of course, the Bible says that they made bricks and they burned them thoroughly. Now, I once heard a tape about a fella that claimed that what they were doing is making these bricks move from being just sand to actually being crystals. And so actually the Tower of Babel was one giant crystal. And of course, crystals is what you use to take a higher frequency, like the radio waves going through the ear, down through the crystal in your radio. And there's still a crystal there today, even though it's ancient technology that takes it down from a higher vibration level to a lower vibration level that we can listen to, which of course is probably the same thing that was happening with the breastplate that had 12 stones on it. It was probably a radio for talking to God. And that's, I think, what they were trying to do is build a radio to talk to, not to God, but to fallen entities that were going to show them high technology. It's the same thing our government is after today. It's high technology. And that's the same thing that Adam and Eve were after in the garden. They were after knowledge. We want knowledge. But what we should have chosen, what Adam should have chosen, was the love of God rather than knowledge. How do you think about that?
Absolutely. Well, I see a little bit different variation, but I do get the crystal part. The breastplate, I quote that in part of the speech that I'm giving because they were used as building blocks. It says that in Ezekiel 28th chapter. And it talks about, now here's what's interesting on that also, these building blocks were used as a screen, a covering. And this is the grid, I believe, that's over the Earth, that keeps Earth locked into a linear timed existence. They even understood, the builders understood that they were going to be scattered. They already had a contingency plan. They said, let us make a name for ourselves. When you look back in the Hebrew on that, it's saying, let us build memorials that have a skyward encryption. What are we finding out recently? That all of these different places, Tiahuanaco, Bolivia, the Giza pyramids, Stonehenge, all these different places have some kind of mathematical association with the stars at a time right about when the Tower of Babel was being built. As they were going to be dispersed, they were dispersed according to their occult knowledge. And they created within each one of these edifices of memorials their knowledge that they had, so that in hopes that someday someone was going to understand and put all these pieces back together. That explains the SS Anunnab and their globe-trotting efforts to try to get all of the myths, legends, artifacts, and look what we're doing today. The same thing. We're part of the invasion of Iraq that first time. I had troops call me up and want to know why they were looting the museum in Baghdad. And I said, you're kidding, really? And he said, no, they had special ops people come in there and they were taking stuff away. One of the abduction victims that I counseled, she was a lieutenant in a transport division. They were taken out. First, they were met by security and they said, turn around. You're not allowed to look at any of this. Don't look. Well, of course, this person was the type that you tell her that and that she's darn sure going to try to take a peek out of her eyes somewhere somehow. They had a crane there out of a cave and they were taking all kinds of strange artifacts and relics out. I mean, things that didn't even belong in that desert area. She happened to notice that they had a crane and it was taking out this large bell-shaped object. Oh, yes. And I've been working with her.
Okay, are you trying to say that this was ancient technology, as in ancient? We'll be right back after this message. Come and go with the Prophecy Club to Israel. November 5 to 15, Leslie and I will take you on a biblical archaeology and a Bible prophecy tour. A tour like none other. What makes our tour different than the other tours? Well, we're going to take you to the traditional sites the other tours go on, but we're going beyond. We're going to show you the places and give you information other tours can't. In 1991, Leslie and I went on a tour with Ron Wyatt. He showed us archaeological secrets in Israel we're going to show to you, such as the iron spike that sealed the tomb of Jesus, proving Gordon's Calvary really is the tomb of Jesus. And you're going to pick up brimstone from the city of Gomorrah. You'll gather tar drips from the slime pits of Sodom. You'll visit the more likely birthplace of Jesus, not the one the tour buses stop at. In a special escort, you'll get to go behind the gates at the Garden of Gethsemane and pray. And if the drilling permit has been granted, we'll also go pray over the future drill sites for prophetic oil. Yes, you'll see many of the traditional sites, but this tour goes way beyond. Call 310-402-4042. That's 310-402-4042 for more information. Seating is limited. 310-402-4042. It's time for our summer blowout. You can get 20 DVDs for a gift of $160. That's only $8 each. 10 for a gift of $100. That's $10 each. 7 for a gift of $120. That's $17 each. 4 DVDs for a gift of $85. That's $21 each. Or 2 DVDs for a gift of $50. $25 each. But you got to call 785-266-1112. That's 785-266-1112. And the offer ends soon. And now, back to the program. UFOs? Anti-gravity flying devices?
I'm telling you that there was anti-gravity devices that were time machines, and we do have some evidence of that. And that's going to be in my talk. This is not science fiction anymore. This is reality. The space-time continuum has already been breached. We have had an enemy use time as a weapon.
Yeah, no kidding.
But they could not use it. Now, this is whether you believe in string theory or whether you believe in a singularity. String theory is multiple universe. Singularity is just one universe. Either way, the Bible has both covered that God is able to bring all things unto himself. So if it's a string theory multi-universe, he's able to bring everything into himself. So that theory goes that for every decision every person makes or doesn't make, there's an alternate universe created. So, I mean, that's like an eternal mess. But as we transform our likeness into Christ, those things can implode into each other, ultimately until it's brought back to a singularity again. Even the singularity can be handled in the fact that God is in control. He's only going to let anything happen according to his will. Nothing is ever going to happen that isn't in his will. The most interesting scripture that I'm going to start out with is Ecclesiastes 3:15. Everything that is has already been, and everything that will be has already been, and God requires an account of that which is past. That is our assurance and insurance that in heaven, in eternity, it's not that God's up there speculating and knowing, well, I'm God, and he's never had to say, whoa, I didn't see that coming, so I'm going to shift gears and change things. God is immutable. He's unchanging. He had a plan right from the beginning, so that anything that is going to happen in any kind of manipulation way, it's only going to conform to what God is allowing or wants to happen, so that they can go back and think that they're going to manipulate or do something, maybe prevent Jesus from going on the cross. That can't happen. It didn't happen. Even if you made an effort at that, you're just going to be an instrument in making sure that it doesn't happen, and you're just going to do it according to the way God had already planned it.
You do think time travel is possible. What about wormholes where they can pop from this place to that place on the Earth or go to other galaxies or something? You think wormholes are possible? And do you think that ties in with CERN? Is that what they're doing?
Well, I think wormholes are possible. What I'm going to show you is two recent scientists. One of them was the first one to clone clone the human being with stem cell research, and he actually proclaimed that each one of us has a biosphere around us. It's called biocentrism, and he says that we have a biosphere around us like a turtle wearing a shell, and so when we die, that breaks, and then we go on to eternity somewhere. Well, I'd sure like to have a talk with him so I can talk to him about eternity and the fact that you're right, but what you do with Jesus depends on where you're going to go out of that turtle shell. But I just thought it was interesting. Here's a scientist, a very highly renowned, respected scientist, saying what I believe the Bible and some of the occult Gnostic literature has already concluded. I mean, you talk to any New Ager, they fully understand this biosphere thing. That's why you see people taking photographs of the auras and all this stuff. As hokey as it might sound, there's an element of truth in all of that. That's what the Nazis understood. That's what they were gathering and garnering from. Even the Caducees, the medical staff of Hermes, which is also the god Mercury in Rome, he was the messenger and swift traveler, a god of commerce and trade, but it was a swift travel. That's why they had little wings on his feet and little wings on his helmet. So as they look at Hermes' staff, which we know as the medical staff, the Caducees, they looked at that. This is a Nazi mind, the way they extracted physics from myth. They said, you know what, if we take the element mercury and put it into a vortex, it's going to implode. It's going to create a sense of some kind of electrical energy that's going to create some new form of flight. That was the basis of their research and discovery into anti-gravity, electromagnetic, faster-than-light travel.
Okay, tell us more about the Nazis and their technology.
You can create this vehicle that can warp the time presence around itself. In other words, almost creating like a wormhole. But then I think where the United States has had a problem is that they do not understand, and I don't even know how much I want to tell them. I'm going to have 2 men in the black, at my door wanting to find out where I got this information from. Actually, I got it from the Bible and from the occult, and understanding the occult. But the Nazis understood about sonics. This is the key element right there. As God spoke things into existence, there is a way that you speak, and that speech put from a mathematical formula into a musical harmony, equivalency, is how you punch a hole in space. America has been trying, CERN, they say, is partly, they're trying to create dark matter, but I think we all see now that they're doing much more than just doing that. Because mathematically, they can't even possibly create enough to do anything in their own lifetime. So it's almost like a non-program. But we haven't been able to punch that hole. So we can make a vehicle that can travel really, really fast, but it's not really breaching the space-time until you punch a hole to send and direct that wormhole to length, height, width, and time. I think the Nazis were able to do that, but they did it, again, from extracting their idea of sound, harmonics, and utilizing that. They were actually working on a sonic weapon, sonic cannon. They were working on circular disc aircraft. They were working on the Die Glocke, the bell, which was a time travel project. Of course, jets, rockets. And what's funny is that we had all the capabilities within our own country for these technologies, but we kind of poo-pawed and laughed at these guys and didn't pay them the just attention. Well, we did a little bit with Nikola Tesla, but John Goddard was Wernher von Braun's inspiration for creating the V1, V2 rockets. John Goddard's an American. He lived in Roswell, New Mexico, where I was at. We didn't pay heed or attention. We had Wilhelm Reich, who understood what he called orgone. So all these out-of-the-fringe box technologies, fringe scientists, they were already here in our country, and we could have extracted some of that knowledge there, but we literally sold our American soul at the end of the war through Operation Paperclip and the Reinhard Galen organization. We literally sold our soul and did exactly what Caleb and Joshua warned not to do. We took the spoils of war into ourselves, and it began to change us from within. The seduction to all of this was the fact that here were these Nazis that looked at Adolf Hitler as their messiah. They didn't become good little Americans. They were still on an agenda, and they believed that they were destined someday to rule the world. I've met many people that worked with the paperclip scientists. He said that they were mostly arrogant. They were very hard to work with. TV programs that are around that try to show them as just nice, happy people that were happy to be Americans. No, they weren't, not at all. But they were ingenious. They were connected to the rich elite of Europe. They were highly educated. They were out-of-the-box innovators of new technologies. Where the seduction was that along with this technology, new ways of doing things, new ways of discoveries, I mean, they were into cloning, they were into mind altering. We got our MK Ultra mind control program from the Nazis. We got everything that we have, cutting-edge new technology, came and derived from the paperclip scientists. The problem is it was a package deal. Along with the knowledge of how to do all these things, it just cemented and solidified the American scientists and our American government that we need to listen to these guys, whatever they say. Well, what came along was their occult beliefs, and the occult beliefs ended up becoming what we embraced. Right at the end of the war, all of a sudden, things changed in our educational system. I remember being old enough in the 50s that we were taught two different things. We were taught creation and evolution. And we were taught both, and kids decide for yourself. Now, creation is thrown out. It's ridiculed, and all of a sudden, evolution is presented as the absolute fact. So a lot of other things change, and they change because of the influence of these paperclip scientists. There's a book I'm going to mention, too, in a speech, The Secret Agenda by Linda Hunt. It explains just how much of a horrible octopus we came into our country. They took the upper levels of our security, the academic levels, even in our medicine, our government, most of them leaning toward more of a right-wing conservative government. They took it from inside out. You'll find the money trail. You'll find that most of the corporations, mom and pop factories that helped win World War II were gobbled up by international corporations. Most of those international corporations were people from Krupp Iron Works, from Tyson Steel, and from IG Farben. IG Farben owns our entire medical industry today under various assumed names, but the paper trail is very easy to find, and you'll find it all has German roots. They have bought up systematically all of the industry, especially manufacturing production industries, so that the younger generation thinks capitalism is a bad, evil thing. What they're looking at and what has been replaced is newspeak, like 1984, is the fact that corporate fascism has taken over capitalism. There is no capitalism today in America, very little. And that was just the right and privilege to free ownership. They bought up all mom and pop stores, all mom and pop farms, all mom and pop manufacturing places. And if you look at a map of World War II, the cities of Tokyo and Berlin today and at the end of World War II, then look at Detroit back in 1945 and then look at it today. Who won the war? We're in shambles. If we had to mass produce anything today in Detroit, we can't do it. It's a good place for a scene for a post-apocalyptic picture because that's what it looks like. The neighborhood that I minister at is pretty much like that. So we've had a slow erosion, but at the same time, we've had a slow conversion. Just the very thing that Joshua and Caleb were warned not to do is what we did, and it's been to our undoing. The aircraft, we have them. The black triangles, they're ours. One is called the Aurora program, and the other one is, I think, TB-83 or something like that. But we already know who's making them, who's working on them, and it's all coming from Area 51. And this isn't science fiction. They've actually been able to trace some of the people going back to certain companies that are in alternate energy systems. We're starting to work on wild, crazy things like the time travel, cloning. All of these things were the agenda of the Nazis back in the 30s. It's taken us 60 years just to start catching up.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Why? Mm-hmm. That's the big question here. Why? Why did the Nazis want time travel, and why did we? I mean, obviously there's 10,000 different advantages and things you can do with it, but what was their motivation?
Stan, they even shelved their own atomic bomb program because they realized if they had time as a weapon, they got all the time in the world, literally, to do whatever they want, whenever they want. It goes back to the two lies in the Garden of Eden. All of their cloning and mind control, all of this was in search of the perfect Aryan. Once you understand where their roots of their cult beliefs came from, Helena Blavatsky and Secret Doctrine, that was the equivalent to their Bible, they were following this as a directive, as a religion put to practice. What happened was they had too little too late to do anything to win. But this was prophesied in the Bible. I'm going to show you, walk you through everything that happened in the Bible at the end of World War II has a scripture, chapter, text, and verse to show event by event what is going to happen. It's too much that I can't get through right now. So maybe that's a tidbit for you to come. You want to see, think about it. The biggest, worst war that has ever been in recorded history that we know of. And you're going to tell me it's not in the Bible? I'll show you. Every step of the way is in the Bible. And there was a last beast empire that was going to be divided, partly scattered, partly united. And the scattered would come in and be part of the partly united. And from that, they mingle their seed with men. The same agenda, the same program comes again. This is another way to see who modern Babylon is. It's a nation that had two parts to it. And it has two. One was partly scattered, one is partly united. My claim and the scriptures that I can show you show that that is the United States of America and Nazi Germany now come together working, but they have an overseer, and that's the New World Order under the guise of the United Nations.
Okay, well, brothers and sisters, you can tell he's got some very interesting information. I encourage you to go ahead and come on out to the meetings and or get the DVDs. We'll tell you more about the meetings in just a moment. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your monthly support. God bless.
Brothers and sisters, God wants us to help His side win the battle for souls. The Prophecy Club is on the tip of God's spear. Join the battle and prayerfully consider supporting the Prophecy Club with your gifts of support. We would not be here without your prayers and generous financial support.
Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. The June speaker at the Prophecy Club is Jim Wilhelmsen. He's going to be speaking on America's Destiny, Tribe of Dan, and the Three Frogs. Topics will be understanding the biblical terms for America, a kingdom removed, a scepter change, the Tribe of Dan and America, all about the three frogs of Revelation 16, a history showing America is Babylon. How UFOs relate to a cosmic Christ, Thursday, June 4th, 7 to 10:30 p.m. The next one is the clouds of heaven and UFO abductions. Topics are, what did Ezekiel see? The Book of Enoch, interesting physics. UFOs, Satan's plan to replace Christ with the Antichrist. The history of Nazi UFOs and why they lost the war with this amazing high technology. The Nazi trail after the war's end. Where did the UFOs go? Antarctica? The alien vehicles, message, occupants, and abduction experiments are the same as former Nazi agenda. The reasons for abductions, Friday, June 5th, 7 to 10:30 p.m. The next talk is Biblical Time Travel, a new meaning to the end times. Topics are time travel is possible. Threats that can only be explained with time travel. Heaven is outside of time. What is time? Time travel found in the Bible. Two lies of Eden, a counterfeit eternal realm. Ancient knowledge from the past and the Tower of Babel. Daniel 8 and the Nazi time travel technology. The real history fulfills Bible prophecy. God's control, measure, and how time is a weapon. The Kecksburg and Stephenville cover-up. Saturday, June 6, 3 to 6 p.m. Does the Bible say the earth has hollow places? Can this be compatible with modern plate technology and science? Lazarus and the rich man. Where was Cain sent? Where is paradise and Eden related to Abraham's bosom? Where did Jesus go after his death? Where do demons live and how did they get there? How does CERN, the Devil's Triangle, and the Dragon Sea relate? How does the Nazi expedition and claim of an alliance with, quote, pure Aryans play into this? Does the Bible say the earth has hollow places? That's Saturday, June 6, 7 to 10:30. So that is 4 meetings, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, June 4, 5, and 6. A gift of $10 at the door for each meeting, but the best deal is take advantage of our summer blowout. Single DVD gift of $30, 2 gift of $50, 4 gift of $85, that's $21 each, 7 gift of $120, that's $17 each, 10 gift of $100, that's $10 each, 20 DVDs gift of $160, that's only $8 each. But you gotta call 785-266-1112. Offer expires soon. That's 785-266-1112 for the summer blowout gift offer. All meetings are at the Prophecy Club, Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue in Plano, right behind the Whataburger. That's 2540 K Avenue in Plano, right behind the Whataburger, on the corner of Park and K, like the margarine. And I'll look for you at the meetings.